Welcome to the ACT Prep Final Review, the math portion. If you either weren't in class for the review or possibly there were some questions that you still had after leaving class, here's going to be a way to kind of see things in full effect. So rewind me if you need, listen in carefully, and hopefully we can get you set for the final here. First question. What is 0.0087 expressed as a percent? Now remember, as a percent, if it's in decimal form, we want to move the decimal place 2 places to the right. Moving it 2 places to the right puts my decimal right in front of the point, right in front of the 8, and makes it 0.87%. Okay. 24 jelly beans are red and 16 are blue. What percent of the jelly beans are blue? Okay, blue would be my success over the total number of jelly beans. Well, there's 16 blue ones. There's a total of 40. So if I went ahead and divided that out, 16 divided by 16 divided by 40, I get 0.4, but again, to become a percentage, I would multiply that by 100, which would give me 40% of my jelly beans. Okay? Next, if 30 stickers cost $1.35, how much do 95 cost? Well, if 30 cost $1.35, and I've got my stickers over my money. My stickers would be 95 in the other one, and I'm trying to figure out how much they cost. So again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cross multiply here. So go ahead and type in $1.35 times 95, which would be 128.25, and that would be equal to 30x. And then we go ahead and divide by 30, and you get 4.275. Now again, we don't talk about money this way, so round to the nearest cent, and we're looking at $4.28. So kind of keep working along with this here. Next one, if it takes me 6 hours to drive to St. Louis going 55 miles per hour, how long would it take me if I increased my speed to 65? Okay, fixed still, we don't need that there. So we made this really simple before, instead of playing with the proportion game. 6 hours going 55. 6 times 55 is 330. Okay, that's how long my trip is. If I increase my speed, I divide that by 65. And I get this real funky answer. You're like, whoa. Now again, that would be in hours. Notice my answers are all in hours and minutes. So I need to convert the hours part into minutes by multiplying by 60, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, which would give me 5 hours. And then I get like 4.164 minutes, but again, we go to the nearest one, which would be 5 minutes. So we're good there. Move on up here. Last question on the front page. Kareem has 5 sweaters, 7 shirts, and 3 pairs of slacks. How many different outfits can he make? Let's keep this simple. He's going to pick a sweater. He's going to pick a shirt. He's going to pick a pair of slacks. 5 choices with sweaters, 7 with shirts, 3 with slacks. Multiply those all together. We're good to go, and we're on the move. Okay, so next, I tossed a fair coin 8 times, recording heads and tails. On my next toss, so if I just took a coin out of my pocket right now, what's the chances of getting heads is what's being asked. 1 out of 2. Don't get sucked in with all the other questions and all the other info that's there. Okay? If a marble is randomly chosen from a bag that contains exactly 12 red, 8 blue, and 16 white marbles, what's the probability the marble will not be white? Okay, not white would be red or blue over the total. Well, I've got 12 red and 8 blue, and I have a total of 36 marbles. 20 out of 36. I notice that's not one of my answers, and I go, oh, I can divide each of these by 4. 5/9, 5 out of 9, and I'm good to go. Okay, so it's just simple things and kind of taking your way along with this. Now, those of you that were with me fourth quarter, this might be a little bit more interesting, but it's just geometry, it's review. In the figure below, line M is parallel to N, which of the following angles must be congruent to angle X. We always talked about with these how alternate interior angles tended to be what we were looking for a lot of the time. You know, that Z shape we were talking about. So if I look at that for a moment, and I say, okay, let's see if there's something with X that can get my Z shape. Hey, look at there. There's my X. There's my 4. I end up getting my Z shape with 4, and I'm good to go. Next, as we turn over to the next page, we have ID badges that we're doing. It consists of 2 letters and 2 digits. Big thing to look for, do we have any restrictions? Letters may be repeated. Okay, so I have 26 choices for each of those. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. Digits may not. So I have 10 choices from 0 to 9, but if I can't repeat my first digit, I only have 9 choices for the next one. Oh, and it's 3 digits. I really got to start reading more carefully. If I can't repeat, now I only have 8 choices. So be careful and read carefully, because a lot of the questions we have would be more similar to answer C, but that restriction is going to mess with us a bit. Okay, next, we're pet sitting for a couple of dogs. One dog's fed every 4 hours, the other every 10. We got to feed both dogs at the same time. How many hours will pass before you feed them both again? Okay, one way of looking at this is you could look at 4 and 10 and just start counting by 4s and 10s until you found something that they had in common. Now, if your numbers get bigger, this could be a little complicated. Well, what else could I do? I could look at the 4 and the 10, and I could start dividing them in until I found one that worked. Well, 10 doesn't divide into 4. 4 doesn't divide into 10. So that would eliminate each of those. Neither of them divide evenly into 14. But when I get to 20, 20 divided by 4 is 5. 20 divided by 10 is 2. And that's the first number that have both go in. So that could work for me. Okay, as we move down the page. So far this year, a student has earned the following scores on 400-point tests. What must they earn on the 5th and last test? Now again, this is a preference. I'm only going to do it one way though. So far on the 4 tests, I've gotten 67, 76, 81, and 99. What do I have to get on the 5th test? I don't know. To average 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tests, average an 80. So at this point, I solve it like an algebra problem. Get rid of the fraction by multiplying by the 5 that I was dividing by. Add up the other 4 numbers that I've gotten on my previous tests, and this can come in handy when you're trying to figure out what you need to get on your final, and subtract the 323 over. And it looks like we're going to need a 77 to get that B average that we're looking for. And then finally, find the value of the expression of x equals -2. Now again, this is one, you could use the store function on the calculator, but I don't really want to have to bother with that. I'm good with my math. Remember, when substituting, use parentheses, or you will get wrong answers, and it's not the calculator's fault, it'll be operator error. -2 quantity squared is 4. -4 times -2 is +8, which is 12, minus 8 is 4. Problems only if you don't use parentheses, so be sure to do that. Next, more evaluating. Again, if you want to use the store function, you could on this. I'll actually show the store function on one just so you can see how it works in case you need a reminder. So how does this work again? Well, I type in the number I want x to be. The store button, which I'll move this up so you can actually see it, is going to be down here right above the on button. So if I hit that, I can go ahead and get my arrow, and then I type in my x, and that lets the calculator know that's what I want. And then I'm going to type in what I see. I don't have to have brackets. Parentheses work just as well for this. So -3x minus 5 plus 6, and then I'll use parentheses again. And I need the second one there to be my bracket, and then squared. Hit enter, and I get my solution. Now again, I can get the same thing doing it manually, but I wanted to let you see both ways how this could work. Okay. So next, which of the following is equivalent? We're just combining like terms. So 15x, I see this answer doesn't have 15x, so it's gone. Positive 6 and negative 12y, watch the signs in front. 6 minus 12 is negative 6y, and I look and I'm like, huh, the only one that's got negative 6y is this one, just to be sure. Negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9, but I knew that already. More combining like terms. Always distribute and get rid of those parentheses first. Negative times negative is positive. And here we go again. Combine like terms. Watch your signs. Negative 2 and negative 5 is negative 7x. Get rid of a and b. 4y and 9y is 13y. Hey, get rid of c and d. I don't even care. I'm probably going to be right. 6 minus 11 is negative 5, and I was. But just to make sure, not a bad idea. And finally, okay, what's the value of x that satisfies the following equation? Now I can either solve it algebraically, which is what I choose to do, or you could just start substituting numbers in until you find something that worked. Okay, multiplying by a half is the same thing as dividing by 2. So I'm just going to divide each of these by 2. And on the other side, I'm going to combine like terms. Watching my signs. What you do at this point is going to be completely up to you. I like getting my x's to stay positive, so I'm going to choose to add 4x to both sides. I'm going to add the 4 back and divide by 6 and get my solution. Same exact thing is going to be working on 17. Because again, I could just substitute. But again, I like being able to show off my math skills. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute. I'm going to combine like terms. Notice I'm not doing this in one step. Not that you can't if you're able to, but again, that's where you're going to make more of your errors when you're doing problems like this, is when you're not really paying real close attention to what you're doing and you make a mistake somewhere. Then add my 3. Get my 7. See, so again, be cautious and make sure that you're being careful in what you do. Next, we're looking at the following lines parallel, which means they have the same slope, perpendicular, which means their slopes are negative reciprocals. The signs have switched and so has the fraction. Or neither, which would be neither. Well, here my slope is 4, because they're both in slope-intercept form already. This one's negative 4. Well, they're not the same, so it's not parallel. This is not a negative reciprocal. It's negative, but it would have to be flipped over. I'd have to have 4 and 1/4. So it's not perpendicular either. It ends up being neither. Okay. Distance. In the coordinate plane, what's the distance between these points? Okay, my distance formula. I can either go this route and use the actual formula, or again, you can use the Pythagorean theorem if you're willing to draw it out. There's my x's. Here are my y's. Be careful when you're minusing a negative, not just to put 2 minus 2. 3 squared minus a negative makes that plus. We square those out, and we get a nice clean answer of 5. But again, I could draw a picture on this if I wanted to, and I will. I'll make a quick sketch here. So if I were to actually plot the points 8, 2, and 5, negative 2, and connect those, that would be my hypotenuse. And I drew a right triangle to go along with it. I could count and say, okay, 1, 2, 3 for one of my legs, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the other, and then just do 3 squared plus 4 squared equals x squared, and I get the exact same answer. So if you're a formulas person, go with the formula. If you're visual, go with the picture instead. 20. Whoa, went a little too far. What's the algebraic expression for the midpoint between these? Okay, midpoint. It's just like finding an average of your x's and an average of your y's. My x's are 8 and b. Don't let the variable fool you. My y's are a and 6. Now I just got to find the one that matches up. There it is. That one's good to go. And finally, in the figure shown, all line segments are horizontal or vertical. The dimensions are given. Now remember, this is the one where we had pieces that were missing. I don't know how long this piece is. I don't know how long this piece is. And if I don't want to sit and try and figure it out, remember, we can always turn this into a triangle. Triangle, holy cow, Harty. A rectangle. Hope you're all done laughing at this point. I know opposite sides of a rectangle are equal, so if this side's 10, this side also has to be 10. And if 2 and 1 make 3, this will also be 3. And then I can just add those up and get to my answer. Next, if the two triangles below are equilateral, what's the ratio of the perimeter? Remember, ratio of the perimeter is a to a, which basically means I'm just going to make a fraction or a ratio out of what I see and put it into its simplest form. If this would have been ratio of areas, I would have been doing it to a squared, which basically means I would have squared both of these numbers before I went ahead and wrote down my answer. If it would have been ratio of volumes, once I reduced the fraction, I would have cubed both of them. So keep that in mind going into the final, that it may not be perimeter, it may be area or volume. Okay, 23, the area of a square is 81 square inches. What's the perimeter in inches of that square? Okay, so if the area is 81, what do we know about a square? All the sides are the same. So length times width or sides squared would have to equal 81. So what can I times by itself to get 81? 9. So if those are 9, these are going to be 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. Looks like 36. But you have to understand, square, what do I square to get that? Okay, the picture can help a little. 24. A rectangular lot that measures 50 by 100 is completely fenced. What is the approximate length in feet of the fence? Okay, so 50 by 100, it says rectangular, which means the opposite sides will be the same. Length in feet of the fence. Length is the equivalent of perimeter. As my perimeter goes a little off the screen here, there it is. So add all of these up, 150, 250, 300. We're good there. 25. If a rectangle measures 24 by 45, what's the length in meters of the diagonal? Again, draw a picture to help yourself out. 24, 45, there's the diagonal. What are we going to use? Oh yeah, that Pythagorean theorem that we use on basically everything. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and punch 24 squared plus 45 squared into my calculator. And then again, I got a square root still. I can't just write down the 2601. And I get my solution. And I'm ready to head to the last page. Now this last page you know from reality because you've actually experienced this. How many questions are on the math test for the ACT? Nice thing about these, the answers are the same. 60. How many minutes you get? 60. That's kind of nice. We don't have different numbers like we do in English. So those should be a couple of easy ones to knock out. Done some strategy questions. If you notice you only have 1 minute left but have many questions left and answers, what should you do? Better all be getting this right. Right, pick your favorite column. If you do A or C, ooh. Need to get hold of you later. 29 and 30. The ACT math test provides you with a formula sheet. That is false. Only WorkKeys does. And that's different from ACT, different days. They're both part of the Prairie State Achievement Examination, though. And finally, true or false, calculator programs are allowed on the ACT. That is true. But again, please remember that is not the be-all, end-all. As some of you found out, you had calculator programs and had like one question that it worked with. So you still have to have some problem-solving strategies to make this work out. Hope this works out well for you. This will also be on my YouTube page if you want to look me up. If you want to check me out on YouTube for this, or if any of you have some Algebra 2 issues, if you type in Harty Math in the search thing, if that doesn't show me up right away, if you add Harlem to that, you should be able to find me and find this again if you wanted to go back through it. So thanks and good luck on finals.